Nigerians remain divided over President Bola Tinubu's reforms, with critics citing rising hardship, food insecurity, and persistent corruption. Yet economists argue that years of delay in ending fuel subsidies and aligning the naira created today's pain. Now, despite high inflation, interest rates, and a tough business climate, indicators show early gains: naira stability, $40.9 billion in reserves, stronger oil outputs, and rising foreign investment. Government revenues grew at 40% in H1, while new tax reforms from 2026 aim to boost fiscal capacity. With that poses a lot of critical questions. Well, joining us is Muktar Mohammed. He's the CEO of Financewithmuktar, and he joins us live from Houston, Texas, in the U.S. Muktar, I hate that you're not here in Lagos, but let's just get started. In your opinion, has President Tinubu's reforms delivered any, tangible wins for the economy despite rising hardship? I mean, the government argues that it does. Your take?
I think it has delivered some positivity. And if you look at, like you rightly pointed out in your report, you look at revenue from the government side, there's a lot of revenue, about 60% increment in terms of revenue to the three tiers of government. The challenge has been that if you look at these 3 tiers of government, what they have done with those revenues are commensurate with what they are receiving. I think that's where the challenge is. If you look at economic reforms, when that starts, they first of all create a system of one-sidedness. And that one-sidedness normally comes in the area of those investors. Investors seem to enjoy the positivity of the economy first, and then businesses that are directly impacted by those policy, whether positive or negative, first of all suffer from it. And if you look at when it is reform came, you look at the naira floating of the currency, or the devaluation of the naira, depending on where you are. Then you look at the removal of fuel subsidy, you realize that has boosted the investment climate, especially the exchange, the Nigerian stock exchange, where investors have also enjoyed relatively good returns since it came. And then look at the company, the banking sector, the financial sector, they've been really been boosted by this reform. We've seen that also play out in their results that they released. Then you look at the businesses, you realize that the manufacturing sector, the other sectors suffered initially. Telecommunication manufacture, because of the revaluation that affected their bottom line. Now, with the stability that we have seen, we are now seeing them now coming back. So businesses are now profiting from those reforms. So when you have the reform, first, positivity you see in the area of attracting investors. Then you look at the investor capital climate become very attractive, and a lot of investors will now begin to read. Then you see businesses recovering, doing a lot of profits because of those reforms. But the ordinary Nigerians might not feel it yet because, again, like I said, it's a gradual movement from one stage to another, especially when you look at what is fueling those reforms and what definitely affect the day-to-day living of Nigeria, the removal of fuel subsidy especially. So that, for me, the reform have had the positivity, but it's in the area of investment and business, but it has not trickled down to the ordinary Nigerians, especially in the area of job creation, reduction in terms of poverty level. So we are still very, very high because the reform is still biting hard in this area.
Now, speaking of those reforms, I mean, we'll get to, the grassroots and why we're not seeing, the rips of the benefits down to the grassroots. But let's look at the reforms. One of them is that the reforms of the Tinubu administration was to see gains in the naira, and they are touting that one of the gains are, the current naira stability. But how sustainable is this, giving Nigeria's import dependence?
Well, again, when you look at this stability we are celebrating, or they are celebrating, you have to look at it too. You have to say, when you came, what was the exchange rate? What did you think is the true value of the naira at the time you came to power? If you remember, then the chairman of the tax reform committee, I've said that the true value of the naira should be about 750 to the dollar. And at the point he said, okay, the worst that can happen is about 1,000 naira for $1. But today we are doing 1,530. So you can't really say that we have really attained that stability. in terms of that exchange rate, because even the budget benchmark is 1,500. We are still doing 1,530, 1,400, or 1,550 or 1,530. So definitely we have not even attained that. So we shouldn't be celebrating. How sustainable is it? What we have now in the reserve, about 41 billion, according to the CBN data that was released the week, and that we will be able to take import for the next 9 months, which it means that we have 9 months of stability. You shouldn't also forget that our oil benchmark target is not being met, whether in terms of output or in terms of price, because our price, according to the budget, was 2.03 million barrels per day. We just struggled to make about 1.5 million barrels. And also, you also look at the benchmark price at about $70 as it stands to the oil price moving between $63 to $65 per barrel. So definitely, if you look at that, by and by, stabilizing the process you've seen in this exchange rate, there might be challenges, because if there's any external forces that comes in now, then we'll have those challenges, because oil seems to be our main earnings in terms of efforts. Yes, the non-oil sector have been doing well in addition to the GDP, but in terms of value, which has to do with liquidity, which is to be to add to our efforts, then we have not seen that yet. The oil sector seems to be driving us. So any shock that we have, whether in terms of price or in terms of any reforms, then definitely it will affect our market. So for now, I personally just think that we have the stability, but it's very fragile.
Right. Very quickly, because we're almost out of time here, we have to talk about the tax reforms. There's a projected gains from the tax reforms, which is going to be set for 2026. The government's already projecting these gains from it. But we have to ask about whether or not these reforms will ease pressure or, deepen the burden on small businesses or even, SMEs or large businesses come 2026, given what we're seeing now in 2025 already. Will it ease pressure or deepen it?
It will ease pressure, definitely, because the reform is touching both company income tax reduced from 30% to 25%, SMEs 150 million, then you pay tax. So for me, I keep saying that is the best reform of the Tinubu administration thus far. The tax reform act, which has been signed, and will start seeing the benefit of it from January. But I still have my concerns in some areas of those acts, which I think were not addressed. But again, you can't, because of one issue, then say that you throw away the bill. Still, for me, I think the bill is a good bill to help businesses grow. You also improve government finance. But again, in improvement of government finance, we will see those fiscal responsibilities from government. That's most challenges that we might have. But for me, I think it will help business, it will ease the pressure on businesses. And that will also create expansion, and that also will need to job creation for most Nigerians. So for me, very exciting time comes when we start seeing this bill, especially if we're able to implement it.
Right. Muktar, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us.